And a quick sidebar there after juror H31 says, hold up, I've got a hardship of needing to serve on this jury anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. Let's bring in our News 13 legal analyst, Jaya Balani. She just simply says, Jaya, that this is going to be difficult for her. She's got 2 kids, no one to take care of them. This is something that they have to work through. This is all a part of the jury selection process, correct?
Yes, it is. She seems, though, to have a bigger hardship than most other jurors do. She's not getting paid by her job. She doesn't have any family here to watch her kids. $30 a day from the Seminole County to support 2 children may not be enough to feed her children and survive. It's going to be a lot tougher for her than other jurors who just don't want to be away from their families.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Jaya. Speaking of the last juror who we just heard from, who simply said, you know what, it's my duty. If I have to serve, I will serve, but you would make me a very happy man if you told me that you are not going to pick me for jury duty. But that's not enough. You can't just not want to serve on jury duty. The judge will have to say, I'm sorry, this is something that you have to do, correct?
Exactly. Just because someone doesn't want to be sequestered for 4 weeks, which most people don't want to be sequestered for 4 weeks. But this lady here, she physically, financially probably can't afford to do it and doesn't have anyone to watch her children.
Now, along the lines, Jaya, I know the law says you cannot fire somebody if they have to miss work for serving on a jury, but there is no law requiring employers to pay their employees. Is that right?
That is correct. They don't have to pay you while you're on jury duty, and that's why the county actually pays you. While it's a small amount, you're still getting paid to be there, so your job doesn't have to pay you.
All right, thank you very much, Jaya. Please stand by. We'll be back with you for more analysis in just a bit. They are still in the sidebar. Jackie, let's send it over to you. We'll keep monitoring things here in the courtroom. Let's bring in our News 13 legal analyst, Jaya Balani from NeJame's law firm for some more analysis here, Jaya. So talk to me about what this Frye hearing, what can we expect?
Well, the last person we have here is one more witness and expert for the state to see exactly if they'll be able to bring in that 911 call. So I think this will be a big determination for the judge on her ruling.
And at this point, we still don't know whether or not these jurors who are being questioned right now will hear those 911 expert analysis about who might be yelling for help, whether it's Trayvon Martin or George Zimmerman. How do you think that's going to play into this case for either side, if it's let in or if it's to be kept out?
I think it's actually a big deal in the case because if it's let in, and depending on what the experts come out and say for who's on top, who's the one screaming, that could be a big determination on whether or not they find George Zimmerman guilty or not guilty.
Well, I tell you what, Jaya, listening to these lines of questionings for these potential jurors, I would say, just off the top of my head here, 80% have heard of those 911 calls. Many of them actually heard the recordings for themselves, either the George Zimmerman call or the call from the neighbors where you could hear them screaming for help. That's got to be concerning for either side about whether or not they can really put that out of their heads.
I agree. There's going to be a lot of evidence that actually comes into the case, or a lot of evidence that's kept out of the case that the majority of these jurors have already heard from the news, from reading about it. So that's going to be a big deal because it's hard, and they're only human beings, to be able to keep that out of their mind while sitting there listening to the other evidence. 2 to 4 weeks is a long time, over 16 months of hearing evidence. So I believe sometimes there could be times when the lines are crossed, and whether you heard it in trial or whether or not you heard it beforehand.
You know, Jaya, I want to jump back to one of the jurors that we heard earlier today that we had some questions about. This particular juror saying that she was getting ready to move. And now she lives in Seminole County. Obviously, that's why she got her jury summons, but it looks like she might be moving to Orange County very soon. Could that affect whether or not she could be a juror on this trial?
At the time that she was actually called, she still lived in Seminole County, so she's still technically potentially a Seminole County juror. So if the trial starts when she lives in Seminole County, then she has to stay throughout the trial.
Got it. Very good. All right, Jaya, staying with us for more analysis in just a minute. Let's head back inside the courtroom. Looks like we're getting a little activity.